Today, Liz Vaughn and Deborah Boyle share tactics for supporting the grief process when significant others are not at the bedside. This Polaris video was made possible by the American Nurses Foundation.
We are so much more interconnected and yet physically distant than we've been before. You can go from place to place so very quickly. So how do we integrate technology into this healthcare system, into the world that we live in now, where, you have family members in various countries, in various states, and you're able to provide real-time connection with their loved ones to share love. So they're able to be present for those times when previously it would require you getting on a plane. Now we have comfort with technology. Now we have access to technology. And so how do we use that to really connect people in this very global world that we live in?
One of the themes I have experienced and observed in families over many, many years is a concern about exposing children to their loved one who is ill. We had one instance where this happened. A patient talked nonstop about his 5-year-old grandson. And so the grandfather died in the hospital. And no one ever explained to the little 5-year-old what happened to Grandpa. Months later, when the little boy was going in to have his tonsils taken out in the ambulatory center adjacent to the hospital, the little boy started kicking and screaming in the car, and he would point to the hospital. His mother told me afterwards and said, "You're bringing me there to die," because he knew that's eventually they told him that Grandpa had died and where it had happened. The staff could take their own iPhone, looking at ways to send pictures, video clips, short things that enhances the connection, even though they are very far apart. Take them inside a patient's room. This is what Grandpa's room looks like, although he's not in this room right now. Have some of the staff, some of the practitioners on the floor. This is the social worker who helps Grandpa. This is the nurse. This is the physician. This is the person that helps Grandpa eat and makes special diets and whatever.
I found talking with families and talking with people who've lost loved ones when they weren't able to be there with them, the thing that they find to be most important is to hear that their staff members shared space with their loved one, knowing that they didn't die alone, knowing that they had people around them that wanted to care for them. Staff members become like family to many people in the hospital because they spend so much time with them. Tactile things like you're rubbing their hand or you're touching their leg or whatever it happens to be, you're giving of yourself. And so, and that's a way that you're able to pass on the care and the love and the things that they can't get from their family members because they're not able to be there at that moment.
I heard a presentation by some emergency room nurses. What they found was that when they talked to families, the families still couldn't believe that their child or loved one had died. They cleaned up the room, they cleaned up the person. And so the family would walk in the emergency room and see their child, face intact and whatever, under a white sheet, and he was dead. And the family would say, "Did you try to code him? Did you try to save him?" And, that's so true for all cases. And I went back the oncology unit and I said, next time we have an unexpected code and the patient doesn't survive, maybe we should think about leaving him in the bed, leaving the code card in the room, leaving the room somewhat messy so that the family would in fact see that we did try to save their life.
How do we help the staff to know who this patient is? Because the patient's intubated, sedated, they're not able to really share who they are, their story. This particular person was actually from China originally, so they had family throughout the world. Some family was currently with them in our island, and some were still in China. And so we had an iPad in their room 24/7 with a link that the family could access so that they were able to just kind of drop in and kind of see what was going on with their loved one. The family had made the decision that they were ready to let her go. How do we support this, knowing that you guys aren't going to be able to do the traditional things that you would normally do during this time? So one of the things that they requested was for us to have Buddhist chants playing, while she was extubated. So we were able to arrange to have on the TV, we were able to have some Buddhist chants playing in the room. So the family was able to hear that through the iPad because we had it throughout the whole room. Their cultural belief system was that when they left here, they needed to be placed in clothing that they would take to their next life. So the family actually brought us brand new clothes, shoes, dress, and they wanted her to be put in that when she had died, when she had been cleaned, to put that in there so that she would have that new outfit for her next life. For them, it was very helpful to know that we saw the whole person. We saw that her beliefs, her culture was just as important as anyone else's. And so how do we do that in the time when the family wasn't able to be present? So it was a really powerful thing, even for the staff members, because, we wanted to really respect who this person was, their life, and then how do we help the family knowing that that was the last time they were going to get to see their loved one, was through an iPad, was through the technology.
And the platforms that have been built around communication and providing support are going to thrive into the future. They're not going to go away. They're just going to be used in a more intense and creative way. And using things like the internet and iPads and whatever that was only many dabbled at before is going to become a routine part of our care going into the future.
We hope you enjoyed this discussion. To learn more, download our resource guide on supporting the grief process when significant others are not at the bedside.